Well, good morning, everyone. I am Don Zavis, one of the co-founders of the Tucson Paranormal Society, and I want to welcome you to Inside Tucson Paranormal, our conference call for all things paranormal here in Southern Arizona. We have a wonderful show for you again today, and an excellent guest that I've had an opportunity to kind of become familiar with over these last couple of months. And it's a great topic, too, because I don't think that the average person knows exactly how much not only paranormal but extraterrestrial involvement there is kind of in the Tucson and Southern Arizona area. So today, joining us, we have Allen Benz. Allen, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Morning, Don. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you so much. I know that I would do a very poor job at trying to introduce you because you were kind enough to send me kind of a list of your credentials and accolades and certifications and diplomas. So why don't you kind of share with the listeners a little bit about you, where you're from, school, education, and kind of what you do here in the paranormal world.
Well, my name is Allen Benz, Allenbenz, just like the car, but without the car, without the money either.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. I spent my first 10 years there, but because I was getting sick just about every winter, I was spending probably more time in the doctor's office than I was in the classroom. So we moved to warmer climes and ended up in San Diego, California, where I spent the next 15 years. I finished grammar school there, went to high school there, went to college there, the University of San Diego, which is a private school, not to be confused with the University of California at San Diego.
Yeah.
And then I got my bachelor's degree, did 2 years of graduate research work there at USC, and then moved back to Missouri, to Central Missouri. Went to the University of Missouri and got my master's degree in library science, and then worked in that field in various areas. A year there at the University of Missouri, Idaho, Ohio, and here in Tucson. And I was the staff librarian for the now defunct Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, which started here in Tucson, and was there for about 10 years, something like that. Left in like 1980, and then started another group called the Foundation for UFO Research, and had that for 10 years. And then later on, became involved with a group called World UFO Group, which was started by two young people, one a web designer and the other a registered nurse. And we have the founders originally, they got into it, and then they sort of drifted off there. But I've been slugging along over the years, and our primary means of communication through World UFO Group is the online presence that we have, formerly on Twitter, now on X, called World UFO Group. So if you go to x.com/World UFO Group, you'll find that we have almost 25,000 members, followers on that in approximately 140 countries on 6 continents according to the statistics that were sent to us by Twitter-X. Let's see. While I was with Afro, just out of the blue, this thing came up where I became what I call a pre-production consultant, my terminology, because there really was none at that time, for Columbia Studios and their upcoming feature called Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I know. I saw that in your bio. That's absolutely one of my favorite of all favorite movies.
Yeah, and, that could take up that could take up a whole show, and the interplay between myself, who's a librarian in Cleveland, Ohio, and studio personnel basically in Burbank, and over the phone, and they paid for it.
Yeah, you gotta love that. Well, I knew that there had to be somebody connected because so much of what was on that show, as I understood it, was very accurate. So you knew there needed to be somebody on there that that was kind of legitimate in there. So you've been in UFO research for probably the better part of what, 40 years? Somewhere in that area. Yeah.
I started in 1967.
Oh my gosh. So you probably. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alan.
The Vietnam War was still hot and heavy at that time.
So when you got started in the world of UFOs, what was it like then? I mean, obviously now it's much more accepted. There's so much more evidence than there was, but I would imagine back in the 60s, it was thought of kind of as science fiction, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Well, yeah, I mean, 60s. I got into the tail end there, but that was right after the famous or infamous Hillsdale College sighting there that led to the late J. Allen Hynek uttering his immortal words, "swamp gas." And which he never lived down, but anyway, I met and talked with Hynek on several occasions. Never really, real up close buddy and all that sort of stuff. A friend of mine who has now passed was, I mean, he was basically the acolyte of J. Allen Hynek and Ted Phillips. He went on to become the world's most famous investigator of landing trace cases. That was his little niche that he carved out for himself. There where crafters reportedly come down, land, leave marks in the ground of one sort or another, and then leave, and then when and if Ted got wind of it, he would do his best to try and get the information about that case. Sometimes he would travel to the scene of the incident, and sometimes not. He was based for most of his career in mid-Missouri, not in the small town of Sedalia, which is not too far from Warrensburg, I think it's Warrensburg, Whiteman Air Force Base, where the B-2 is now based um, there. But anyway, Ted would go and he would do the soil samples and get stuff analyzed, stuff like that. And he learned a lot of his techniques from J. Allen Hynek there. And so Ted knew Hynek just about better than anybody outside of the Hynek family. Um, uh, and so anyway, that was the time frame, and then came the Condon report, and there's nothing to it. It's all just bunk and all this sort of stuff, and that was a down period there, and then in '73 you started with the prevalence of the humanoid cases where people were seeing humanoid beings along with the craft themselves there, and there was a lot of research and stuff like that, and then there that same time frame was when Carter was elected, and the introduction of the Freedom of Information Act, which yielded a whole bunch of formerly unavailable documents. But in the mainstream, average thing for the average person there, it was still like, oh, you do what? You do what?
Yeah, I think it was looked at with some skepticism. Certainly through the '60s, '70s, and obviously less as we went through the '80s and '90s. So now, have you actually had chances to do field research as well, or is it primarily just?
No, back when I first joined APRO, which was in 1967. There, I became an APRO field investigator, and then I did do several cases there that came my way locally, whether I was there in San Diego or whether when I left California, went to Missouri there, started school there. I did several cases, again, in combination with Ted Phillips, who was also an APRO field investigator in the Missouri area, but since we only lived about 30 miles from each other down Highway 50, there it was easy for us to try and coordinate our different schedules, because his day job was he was an inspector for the Missouri Highway Department. So he had the regular 8 to 5 Monday through Friday to bring in the money, and did the UFO stuff on the side, just as I did, like most people do. There are very few people that can and do make a living while doing UFO research. They're few and far between.
You know what? And I think the reason for that is because it's still not. I guess there is still enormous skepticism, even in the face of, ever increasing evidence. I mean, now you've got, military evidence, you have, video evidence, photographic evidence, you've got sound evidence, as you said, soil samples, and there's this ever growing pool of evidence that even someone who might be skeptical has got to say, look, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's got to be something. So what do you think? So now we're here in 2025. So what do you think about all the things that we're seeing now? We've got the TikTok video from the military. We've got, it seems like just virtually every day there's some new video popping up, some new experience popping up. I mean, there were, hundreds of people saw aliens in a Florida mall, and then they came back and said, no, that's not real. And then they came back and said, well, yes, it is real. And and I love your swamp gas line because, I'm 63 years old. I've never seen swamp gas in my life. So I have a high degree of skepticism for some of the things that they say.
Well, there is, excuse me, there is such a thing as swamp gas there, but it occurs in certain areas under certain environmental conditions. I think out there in the part of Michigan where the sighting took place, there was like swampland or peat bogs or whatever that allowed for the natural occurrence of the phenomenon known colloquially as swamp gas. It's like a methane discharge, as far as I know. My science, not all that great, but I can look it up. That's one thing. With your library science degree, you learn how to look. Find things.
Yeah, you become a very good researcher. So what is? I mean, obviously you've been doing this, in longer than some people have been alive. That are actively involved in this. So, what do you think are we coming to? I mean, you've got, some of the populations that we're heading towards disclosure, and that right now the government is just giving us a little bit at a time so we can kind of, digest it in little small sections. And then you've got other people say that, we're right around the corner from a visitation. Then you've got another portion that says not only are they already here, but they've been here for hundreds of years, and they're kind of weaved in the population. You've got individuals, actual people who step forward and say, even though they're 100% human, that they're an alien or a walk-in or a starseed. I mean, there's this, swirling, extraterrestrial, the television shows and the movies that are dealing with this. I mean, it seems like there's an enormous appetite for all things outer worldly. So, what do you think? I mean, you've been there for a long time. You're kind of like the OG in UFO research, but so what do you think? Are we heading to?
Well, right now, I think that we are making progress on the disclosure thing. Back a number of years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, in that 2010 to 2015 time frame, their researcher, historian, Richard Dolan, made the comment or comparison that the UFO subject is sort of like the immovable object meets the irresistible force. Something's got to give.
That's a good phraseology, because the people that are convinced that it's nothing are convinced, and the people that are convinced that it's real, they're convinced as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing um, is that there's the it the you know it can't be, therefore it isn't cloud, and then you have the saviors from stars are hovering in above Earth orbit, and they're just waiting for the uh, the right time, and then they're going to save us from our many sins, etc., etc. There, that's more or less everybody else in the middle there.
Do you think we're close to that? In your opinion? Because I think you're probably the most well versed person I've ever spoken with. In the next year, 2 years, 5 years, do you think we're ever going to get to that?
Within um, within the next, I'd say 5 years, something is going to um, break loose. The you know the old uh, water is creeping up the sides of the dam. The lake behind the dam is rising in uh, water level, and pretty soon either the dam is going to break or water is going to spill over the top there and rush down into the river or valley below there. Um, so uh, let's uh, go way back, way back. There. From everything that I've seen, heard, and talked to with people who have been there, done that sort of thing, um, there has been some sort of um, visitation or intervention or whatever you want to call it with mankind um, for thousands upon thousands of years. There, you can find drawings in the caves in France and other areas that were done by prehistoric man, and the drawings that those people put on those walls um, look very much like what people in 2025 are seeing. There, same thing like in um, Samaria and Egypt and some of the pyramids, etc. So there has been some sort of presence, whether it is an Earth-based presence or whether it is an extraterrestrial or an interdimensional. There, take your choice. I really don't know. And it's probably a combination of all three. One of the newest areas of interest is what's called USOs, for unidentified submerged objects. They're underwater sea bases. I think that first came to light back around the same time period as I got involved in this walk down the yellow brick road there by the late Ivan T. Sanderson, who was as I recall, he was a British marine biologist. He was British, I know, and whether he was a marine biologist or not, I'd have to go back and take a look, and I don't have one of his books right here in front of me. so I can't just say, "Oh yes," and look brilliant. But his his idea back in the late '60s, um, he did uh, two books. One called um, "Invisible Residents" and the other "Uninvited Visitors." And his idea was that a lot of these craft could be from wherever, but they have bases on Earth, um, like on the ocean floor, stuff like that. Because he said, and this is just basic um, geography or geology, whatever. There, 70% of planet Earth is water, the oceans, and that probably 90 to 95% of that 70% has never been explored. So um, that is a good area for
Sure.
craft to uh,
To
hang out.
hide, yeah, yeah. If you needed a place that was right in the heat of everything, but you wanted to be hidden. So Alan, as we close up today's session, and I always say this because I literally just glanced at my timer. I it's almost like time flies by when we do this. So, any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners, and then maybe you can share some contact information as well if they have any questions or would possibly like to even join the World UFO Group.
Well, you join World UFO Group by going to x.com/um, World UFO Group, and then you can basically just follow, follow there. That's the term that X uses for that. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, they use different terminology there. But that's that. There is no cost or anything to do that there, and it's a virtual organization. It's basically a 24-hour news feed, and so we have people from all over the world. That's why it's World UFO Group. There to uh, send them their material, and then people can look at it, whatever. There. The other thing that I would suggest is that they, independently of that, but still on the UFO topic, there go to newparadigminstitute.org and click on take action, and there's a way to basically contact your senators, congressmen there, and demand UFO disclosure.
Well, I'm right there with you. I believe that there's something ahead down the there's something big on the horizon. Alan, it was an absolute privilege. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and your knowledge is absolutely top notch. And for those that are listening, thank you so much for joining us at Inside Tucson Paranormal. It's a privilege to bring this to you every week. If you've got topics you think would be of interest or that you would like to have represented, please reach out to us, TucsonParanormalSociety.com. You can also reach out to me, Don Zavis, as one of the co-founders at 248-497-5869. So, Alan, on behalf of all of our listeners and members and leadership team Tucson Paranormal, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this. It was a wonderful interview, and I'll make sure you get a copy of the link here in midweek. So, again, thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Go out and start looking her up in the sky. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.